All right, just want to give a note of gratitude for those in attendance. It's been a couple of months because we've had some things in person, some wonderful events actually that have been captured in the way that they could be, and will be shared on our YouTube channel that is being pieced together, and I actually will be sharing it very soon. And there also is the matriculation of some of the past lunchtime chats into that space as well. So we'll just have a good REL, the learning L RELC landing page for people to go and kind of pick up some things that are worth picking up and maybe adding to your skill set, toolbox, whatever, your professional life, your personal life. This is all about just us being better people. And hopefully it's being received that way across these couple of years. But today, I have someone that I always say near and dear, but Ebony does hold a special place. We worked at the YMCA together in Greensboro for a few years, and she was always just a bright light, someone that was pleasurable to work with. Not very good at practical jokes, but she was a great coworker, and I got to see her really pour into some young people during my time at the Y and after when I would come back to visit. She continues that work now in a more unique way, and she's going to tell you all about that. But Ebony is just overall one of the most genuine, wonderful people I've ever met with a beautiful family, and I couldn't see that not happening from knowing how great she is as an individual. So, by extension, she has an awesome set of kids and a husband and all of that good stuff. So, Ebony, I appreciate you making time to join us today and talk about why strengthening education makes for a better tomorrow. I think you're gonna knock this out the park. So she's made a presentation and everything. She's gonna make my job easy today. So I'm gonna let Ebony take control, be the co-pilot, and do what you do.
All
Welcome,
right.
Ebony.
Awesome.
Oh,
Thank
oh,
you.
and I forgot to say, introduce yourself in the way that you see fit, since I may have, just been a little bit too comfortable in that one. Go ahead, talk about
Yeah,
yourself.
you're perfectly fine. We will talk about the practical joke and how wonderful it was. Maybe towards the end, it does involve Nutella, so we'll get to that part a little bit later, you all. So thank you so much, Felton. I'm going to share my screen, and this will help to kind of take us through the conversation today. And you will need a device, a phone or something, because there is an interactive portion. So if you have a phone, there is a QR code because we'll do a little word cloud a little bit towards the beginning of this to kind of ground us and help to see where everybody is and what they're thinking, what their thoughts are. So I will start here. This is my first time using Canva. All right. Can everyone see my screen just fine? Perfect. Perfect. So strengthening education today for a better tomorrow. And so we'll talk about just me and Shift Ed and what Shift Ed does, national and state educational outcomes, and kind of where we are and where we sit now as a state and as a nation. And then we're going to look at our strategic plan as well as my platform. So there are some things I'll share with you regarding my platform because I am planning to make a run for school board here in Guilford County. And so that's that tomorrow. So our state strategic plan as well as kind of that platform and what we're thinking about for the future is also in here. And then there's some time for some conversation because that is what this is all about. So again, I don't know everything, so I'm sure I'm going to learn lots from you all, and then we will, have some good dialogue towards the end. So thank you, and feel free to hop in if there are any questions or anything that you might have in the meantime. So I am a wife and mom, as Felton mentioned. I'm a wife and mom. My son is 11. My daughter is 9. My son just made the soccer team he's the one of 3 sixth graders to make the soccer team at his middle school. So extremely excited about that for him. I am a child who grew up in East Greensboro. I grew up in poverty. That is actually like I was the newspaper poster child for poverty. That's me being held by my preschool teacher. And beside my face is the words poverty. That is how I grew up, and it kind of really hones in on why I do what I do and why I have such a passion for this work. And I'm a champion for children. I have worked in advocacy for quite some time, advocating for the needs of children and families. And so I enjoy that immensely. I have so much fun. I'll speak at Board of Education meetings or county commissioner meetings or at the state. I will speak wherever my voice is needed. And there have been some changes based off of some of the advocacy work that I have done with in partnership with other organizations. Now, Shift Ed. Shift Ed is an organization. We are a backbone agency, and we boldly accelerate student potential, and we do that through tools and resources that are provided to. I would say this. We are education to career backbone agency. So we support students as they enter kindergarten and a little bit before, but as they enter kindergarten, all the way through their career. So in elementary school, we are providing career exposure and tutoring at some of our schools that don't receive Title I funding. We provide support in middle school. We provide training and development and also career exposure and exploration. So we help students understand aptitudes, what makes them special, what makes them tick, and careers that might align with them. And then in high school, we're helping students to create a plan for their career, a plan for their future. And we do this in tandem and in concert with the school district. So we work very closely with the district and provide resources and tools to the district. We also provide scholarships for students who are Guilford County students who have graduated from high school and need kind of to fill the gap between their financial aid that doesn't quite meet, but we kind of fill that gap for students where they might need additional aid when they go into college. So this can be a community college or a university within North Carolina. And then we collaborate. So that is my role. I work with lots of community partners to align on shared goals and outcomes for students in Guilford County. So we have about 50 community organizations who are working on strategies to support student success. And so we have those 4 pillars. We'll talk about that towards the end, but that's some of the work that we're doing with lots of community partners, including Cone Health, Guilford County Schools, Goodwill, all kinds of large and small nonprofits who are working with and for children and families. So this is where the poll comes in. So if you could scan that QR code, I already practiced with it this morning. So that's where Safe Schools came in. So if you could scan that QR code and I want you to you can just scan it. You don't have to join. You can join as guest. So it might ask you to sign in. You don't have to do that. Just join as a guest and you can write what you think will strengthen education. What are your thoughts? And I will give us about 5 minutes to do that. It may not even take that long, but about 5 minutes to do that and start thinking about what we think as individuals who are community partners or community members will support and strengthen our education system. I'll give you time to do that.
And Ebony, if you can, as you go forward today, um, talk about how this matters across the state in the largest way that you know how, because you've been involved at that level as well. Because we have, Rockingham County is the foundation of RELC work. And
Yeah.
I just, we're neighbors as far as Guilford County and Rockingham County, but how that thing just is worthy of all of our attention. And this is an opportunity for people in Rockingham County to kind of expand into different ideas of how to function in regards to schools and young folks.
Yeah, and so a lot of this is focused on the state and not Guilford County specifically. So I was very intentional about that. So we are really going to be talking about state standards as it relates to this work and some national standards, and then thinking about how the state is doing some things to lead to successful student outcomes. So that's a part of that. Mm. These are awesome, you all. I love
Is
those
there
icons.
a link that can be dropped in the chat? Because I'm using my phone right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that you typed something in the chat.
Don did, but I'm in the same situation.
Oh, okay, okay. I can't see the chat. I have too many screens up. So Felton, if you could read the chat, that would be helpful. You're muted.
Thanks, because I was all saying I'll read the chat. Yeah, I'll see. Yeah. Touche.
All right, so I'll go over these. So money is huge. So that comes up twice, just additional funding. And so when we talk a little bit about the strategic plan, funding is in there, right? So funding is there. Individual student needs, that is huge. Sometimes we try to have this cookie cutter model to education, and that's not the case. Someone even proposed an idea of each child having an individual education plan, so individualized education plan or an IEP, not just for students who have significant special needs, but also for, I mean, that should be for every student. Every student is going to learn differently. So every student could have an IEP. That's how we should tailor education to students. I love that. I wrote safe schools. Critical thinking and crucial conversations. There are in the plan for, I forgot the name of the plan. Uh, I forgot the name of it, but there is a plan that's going to come back to me in a minute, where where the state wants students to be able to have challenging and difficult conversations. Now that has changed a bit because I just learned that our district or our state is requiring teachers to log all of their books in their classrooms because they want to kind of have a way to see what kind of books teachers have in their classrooms. So we still want to teach children how to have those crucial conversations, but it's becoming harder and harder to do that. But that is necessary to have a successful future for our students to be able to think critically. Smaller classes is huge. The big thing with smaller classes is we need more teachers, and we need to make sure that we have a pipeline, and that the plan does talk about that, but having a pipeline of teachers who are ready to go into the classrooms. And that teachers can develop curriculum. And so as long as it, for me, as long as it has some bearing and has some features that will lead to the outcomes that we want for our students. But yeah, we need to help those teachers develop curriculum, and they should have input in what type of curriculum we have in our districts. Okay, so let's talk about some national outcomes. So right now in our nation, 16% of children are living in poverty. And we know that children who are living in poverty are disproportionately affected and have lower educational outcomes. And so we need to, as a nation, we are struggling there. And specifically in Guilford County, we are above that. And I'm not sure how Rockingham County is, but we're at 22% of our children are living in poverty. So I did not do the research, and I should have, to see what that percentage is. But that's a national standard. 28% of our students are chronically absent in the nation. And so what that means is students are not getting the education and specific school supports that they need. And so we want to make sure that students are coming to school. Now, if you don't mind coming off mute, why do you think that students, or what do you think that are the contributing factors of students not coming to school? Or does anyone want to come off mute or you can read anything in the chat that may come up, Felton.
I got you. I'll start. I think at points, shame plays a role. There's a lot of peer pressure on students and young people. And we had that growing up as well, to fit in, be cool. So if you don't have the latest and the greatest, you're dealing with poverty and adverse circumstances, you might be avoiding some forms of bullying and such.
So I'm going to just say belonging, just having a sense of belonging at school. That's huge. Anyone else?
If you want to add in, feel free to unmute.
Yeah, feel free.
The screen share is not allowing for me to see hands very well. So Teresa, I see you unmuted.
Yes, I was going to say, because I taught for a little while, and I think one of the barriers that I was seeing was parents dealing with addiction and abuse issues.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly right. That's another one. So parental health, parental well-being, and not having the supports at home to have a desire to even get to school. And you are sometimes caring for siblings, as I did. Yeah, so I had to care for my siblings when there were challenges in my home. And so that, I made sure we got to school because I knew that's where we would eat. So I was very adamant about that. But having challenges at home is a huge and is a direct factor on children attending school. Anyone else?
Hungry children can't learn. If a child is hungry, it's tough to put demands on young people to do things that adults can't do. And if your body is deprived of basic food, and that means that your health, you're not feeling well, which compounds a whole another set of issues. So obviously, for those reasons, oftentimes children don't come.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Food insecurity is real. Food insecurity is real. And like I said, I went to school to eat. And so that can be a challenge for a lot of our students. Now, one of the number one reasons, I can't say the number one, but one of the major factors is health, is a student's health. So if a child has asthma, like I have a good friend, her son has asthma, and he misses lots of days of school because of his health. Mental health, students, again, not feeling that they belong, feeling anxious, feeling nervous, having all of these other issues will lead to a child being absent. And health and wellness is listed as a number one factor of why children are chronically absent. And so this strategy also talks about how we can have some supports within the school that will prevent and allow children access to telehealth mental health services while they are at school. Okay, so these are resources that we have seen have huge outcomes and huge impacts on specific schools. I know specifically here in Guilford, we have a wonderful telehealth program. 30% of through eighth grade students are proficient in reading. We are seeing some amazing growth. It sucks. That is not a good outcome, but it is better than it was during the pandemic. And we are still not at those pre-pandemic numbers. And of course, if you disaggregate that, that our children who of color, Black and brown children, are not showing the same amount of gains in these things, but we are showing growth. So I do want to say that though that number is not the number we want to see more of our children growing. We are seeing some gains, and we do have a lot of work to do. 5% of our children are without health insurance. So again, that ties directly into that chronically absent piece. So that number is higher in North Carolina, as you'll see on the next slide. And 87% of our students are graduating on time. And so though that is we could do better as a nation, and we'll see that number in North Carolina is honestly exactly the same. We want to also ensure that when our students are graduating, they're graduating prepared. So what we're noticing in our college and universities, that students are having to take remedial classes that don't count towards credits because they graduated without the skill sets that they needed to thrive in college. So they're graduating on time, but are they graduating prepared to succeed in college and career? Again, numbers for North Carolina are trending very closely to the national standards, or to the national norms. I can't say standards, but to the nation. So 16% of our children are in poverty. 25% are chronically absent. That's a little bit lower than what did I say? Yeah, it's lower than the state, it's lower than the nation, which is good. North Carolina does have some targeted approaches to chronic absence, so they are working on some things, and that's also built into this plan. We do have a few more, a higher percentage of our students proficient in reading. So there are some things, and I just got some data this morning. I was looking at, specific to Guilford though, that we are seeing some trends upwards in those in that growth. 5.2% of our students are uninsured. We know that a lot has come down as it relates to Medicaid, and some changes have been made that have knocked some children off of Medicaid and some families off of Medicaid, which is tragic. So we are going to see likely, if we don't get this right, we're going to see some more of that, which is going to lead to more children being absent because they don't have that health care. So we have really got to advocate for that. And then 87% of our students graduating on time is also another standard. Now I have on here as well, just something, I need to move this. Here we go. We are 43rd in national rankings of teacher compensation. Okay, we do not pay our teachers very well in the nation. And so that is, we are trending actually to be the lowest in the nation very soon if we don't grow that, if we don't increase that compensation a little bit more and more quickly. So we are actually on par to be among, even lower. We dropped 3 spots from last year. So it looks like it's going to continue to trend downward. And if we can't get high quality teachers, I'm not sure what we expect of our education system and how that's going, because teachers are the single most important factor of a child's education, not the principal, the parent, but as far as in the classroom, it is going to be the teacher. So we've got to make sure that we have high quality teachers who are compensated well and who are treated with the utmost of respect. Okay. So that's where we are as a state. Now, any thoughts? Because I have this question in the end, but any thoughts, any kind of burning questions? Go for it.
Real quick, I want to read what Tango mentioned in the chat as far
Okay.
as yes, chronic disease in child and or caregiver has a negative effect. And then she mentions that telehealth and student health centers on site are helpful in improving student attendance. Before I lose track of this, and you can chime in, and after everyone else maybe has a couple things that they want to get off their chest, but I wanted you to kind of hone in on the importance of parents teaching children how to read as early as possible, because that negates so much going forward. Because as you stated, as a person who teaches on a college campus, I noticed the deficiencies of these, kids who've gone through high school and still lacking some measures as far as a high level of literacy, of grammar and structuring of their writing and such. So maybe touch on that. And, you know, there was a teacher exodus a few years ago to Texas, of all places, right? But they were paying their teachers. We have to kind of understand that people want to make a living, and caring is not always enough. So just wanted to put those things as pot stirs. Anybody else, just like I said, feel free to unmute and chime in.
I was going to type my question in the chat, and it may be off because I'm really not understanding what role the quote education lottery, the funds from that, the revenue from that, what role does that play with respect to providing better compensation for the teachers and also resources? It's always been hard for me to understand how it is that teachers have to pay for the fundamental tools and resources they need for their classrooms, and why that money is not coming from the education lottery. Like, what is that all about? Why is it an education lottery, but we're still struggling?
Especially with $1.2 billion as the as the winning I could not agree with you more. And when I saw that, when I was driving down the highway on the billboard, I was thinking the same thing. And I know our superintendent mentioned it before. Not a lot of that comes to the districts. There is a portion that does, and I'm not sure how much of that goes to the districts. I'm glad we have some of it, like it does not, but it is certainly not giving the districts enough support and those schools enough support. And I don't know what pot of money it even goes to. And so I know that, but I do know our superintendent mentioned it at one point. I just don't know all of the ins and outs of how the education lottery. And so if someone does know on this call, that would be helpful. I
Don
don't.
just contributed something
Okay.
into the chat because she would know. And she says the lottery funds are for school construction and scholarships. Maybe they need to amend some of that, right?
Hey, y'all. Yes. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm driving. Sorry. So I can't.
You're good. We can hear you.
Have my photo. But yeah, so the General Assembly helps direct where those funds go. So Felton, to your point, if we want to see funds be directed a larger percentage to counties or a different funding structure, that would be the base to help navigate that formula change or that funding change.
Thanks for that, Don.
Yeah. And it's not equitably distributed amongst all the counties.
That was my next question. How do they determine where that, because we have some infrastructure issues that we have a bond, like several bonds that we've had to work, get past to work on the infrastructure of our buildings, and the just the construction of our buildings and our infrastructure of our schools. And I'm not sure how much of that has been provided to Guilford. But thank you for that.
Yeah, and Ebony, I can connect you some of that info too.
That I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Felton, I'll go back to your question. I feel like you said it, but I just couldn't just reiterate what you said. Our families are our first teachers. So however we can provide resources to families early, the better. So even we have Ready for School, Ready for Life here in Guilford County, and they are doing a lot around early care and education, as well as Guilford County Partnership for Children. And I know there's a Partnership for Children and Resource and Referral there in Rockingham County. So those agencies are the go-to agencies to support that early learning. And we know that we have a child care crisis here in North Carolina that is ridiculous. And so however we can share resources with our families as early as possible, the better. Now, a quick story. So I used to teach high school, and during one of our lessons, I was talking to my students about educating their students or their children when they have children, when they have them. And I was like, well, who is your child's first teacher? And they were like, in kindergarten. I was like, no, you are their first teacher. They were like, no. They were very adamant that they were not their child's first teacher. And so it became a whole lesson around how families are their child's first teacher. And if we have a generation of parents, and this was about 10 years ago, if we have a generation of parents who don't feel that they should be the first people to educate their children and to read to their child, we are at a loss. So we've got to make sure that those families really understand the why, and that the learning doesn't just start in pre-K or in kindergarten.
Yeah, I just recall was it last year already when I attended the Shift Ed conference? Gosh, time flies. But one of the things that people were so I guess proud of was the fact that some parents had went back to community college and kind of, reinvigorated their desire to learn and grow, and then taking that home. So it was like a duality to the usefulness of the education that they were now able to support their kids in. So it's very important. I mean, that's the first person that children generally look up to and want to learn from. So we got to encourage that as well. And we know adverse circumstances and economic positioning do affect some of that desire, because you got to put food on the table. But yeah,
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, Ebony.
Of course. All right, so we're going to share just before we go into the plan. I hope I shared the sound on this thing. But we're going to go into the plan. Let's see if you can't hear it, let me know and I'll stop sharing and start over. But this is just to start talking about the strategic plan that North Carolina has developed, and would love to hear from you and get your feedback, because we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Let me know.
And as we continue counting down to the first day of the traditional calendar school year, state leaders are debuting an ambitious new education plan.
And the goal is to have the best public school system in the nation by 2030. Tamara Scott is live in Raleigh breaking down that plan. Tamara, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, state leaders here, they are looking 5 years into the future, planning for what they're calling educational excellence. So earlier today, they got a tour here at the Centennial Middle School, Magnet Middle School here in Raleigh. And the state superintendent, Mo Green, and Wake County leaders like Robert Taylor, along with other state and county leaders, were hands-on inside classrooms where students are innovating and learning. After that, we learned more about the 5-year plan and the 8 pillars they've designed to accomplish their goal of being the best education system in the nation by 2030. The 8 pillars include themes like enhancing parent and community support, optimizing operational excellence, and revering their educators. Now, within the pillars, there are 100 actions they say will take place and include constant monitoring and accountability for reaching said goals. Wake County Superintendent Robert Taylor says he's excited to work with the state and other counties to reach those goals.
The necessary supports and the stakeholders that we want to be involved in this work. As educators, we all know this is work that we cannot do alone. It involves the engagement of our entire community, and I know that this strategic plan is going to set the path to be able to do that.
So there will also be a public space to learn more about this 5-year strategic plan at the Neuse River Middle School starting at 6 o'clock tonight. So if you would like to take you and your family to learn more, you can head over there. Back to you.
All right. So that's just a highlight of the plan. I'll talk about what they're hoping to do to make us the best school, the best state in the nation for education. And so they want to. I'll first talk about the highlights, the bright spots about North Carolina that not a lot of people know, and I didn't know until I started digging through this plan when it came out. And so North Carolina has the most national board certified teachers in the nation. So though they went to Texas, we have the number one highest number of board certified teachers. And I was gonna try to like be a board certified teacher when I was teaching, and I was like, never mind. That is it is a lot of work. And there was a teacher on my hall who was a board certified teacher, and she was phenomenal. And so we still, regardless of us being 43rd in the nation in pay, we have the highest number of teachers who are board certified. Also, we are the national leader in early college. And so we have about 130 early colleges, which, if you're not familiar, allow students to go to school while they're in high school and earn college credit. That's going to save money, reduce student debt, and give them access to high quality, rigorous learning to prepare them for the future. So that means they're graduating prepared. They're graduating ready to go into college and career. I'm going to tout Guilford County here because the early college at Guilford is ranked the number 1 high school in the nation. And so that's right here in our backyard in North Carolina. And so we are ranked amongst the nation. We have the top dual language immersion programs in the country. So we have some amazing dual language programs, and our students have earned more than 358,000 individualized credentials. So our students are earning credentials, which is a huge growth from where we were in the past. And so we are seeing some progress, but we also want to see more for all students. And so what we want to see right now, our ACT composite scores, or this is a kind of an aptitude assessment or a assessment that students will take in high school that prepare them for college, but all students in North Carolina, I believe, are required to take it. Our current levels are 18.5. Our current scores are 18.5. We want to get that to 20. Okay, so that is that ACT composite score. Advanced placement participation. We want to have more students in those advanced placement classes. 21.5, we want to get to 30, okay? We want that pass rate. So not only do we want, I remember all my friends were like taking all these AP classes, but nobody was passing. And so we want to make sure that our students are passing those classes. And so we have seen growth in North Carolina, but we want to reach that 75% of our students who are taking those AP classes to pass them and use that coursework as a stepping stone into college. college and technical education participation. We are at 36% of our students are getting those resources and are taking advantage of that. Think about this, K-12. This is not just something that would happen in high school. We want kindergarten to start getting that engagement already really early. So we have programs like Junior Achievement, who will come in and do classes on careers as early as kindergarten. So we want to allow and provide that exploration very early. And our goal is to be at 42% of our children being fully exposed and fully immersed in college and college and technical education. And then we want our students to get credentials. We want them credentialed. What I want specifically for my children is for them to have an associate's degree when they graduate from high school, be able to have a gainful employment while they're in college. I worked at the Y. I love the Y, but that was not gainful employment. That was just me working a few hours a week. Because I didn't have a lot of skill sets. So it'd be phenomenal if a student can make a livable wage and still go to school. Everybody remembers being that broke college student. That doesn't have to be the case for our students, where they're taking on additional debt just so that they can survive, right? So our students, if they're able to get these credentials, can actually have gainful employment while they're in school. We want 89% of our students in North Carolina to receive a public school education. So a lot of our students are going to private schools that don't have the same academic rigor that our public schools are required to have, nor do they have some of the same resources. And so we want more of our students going to a public school because, number one, that funds the school and supports all children, because every child can go to a public school. That is a bonus. And so we want to make sure that we have, all children are receiving that. And we want to increase per pupil funding by 10%, so that schools are getting more funds for students and for teachers. So those are the big goals. I'm going to share the actual plan or the link so that you all can see lots of resources and also get access to the plan for you to highlight like I have and go through this plan. So any thoughts about this plan? I see Felton, you went off mute. I don't know what's
Yeah, I'm going to read a couple of comments, and you kind of just addressed one of the questions, but you may be able to reiterate that. Latasha had mentioned earlier, while I agree the infrastructure needs are important, why is funding hardly funneled towards tutoring if academic performance is an issue? The priorities in NC seems rather backwards. There is a sentiment of agreement, and I think that's preaching to the choir, so appreciate that comment, Latasha. Tango says by 2030 with the question marks and exclamation points. I pray this works. Sounds very ambitious. There's some agreement there as well. Rob asks, do the 2030 goals include charter schools? Any goals for homeschooling? I believe you've kind of answered that this is more public school funded, centered, so to speak, and come back to that in just a moment. I'm going to keep reading. Demetrius mentions the fact that his children have gone through the dual language learning program in Guilford County, and they are fluent in Spanish. And yeah, Teresa, I agree. I think, I am a historian and a person who appreciates the older styles of learning, where people actually knew multiple languages, and, at an early age. My brain is too calcified to adjust for a new language at this point, even though I passed Spanish in college. But yeah, I would definitely introduce children at a very young age. So Ebony, if you want to pick up where Rob asked the question about charter schools and homeschools.
Yes, so this does include public charter schools. So public charter schools, they are public schools, though they do take funding from the district, so from the district school. And so that's where there is some nuance. Charter schools are a public school, and they are included in this. So when we say public school, it is including public charter. It is a very ambitious goal, but I am of the mindset of, I go big or go home. And I know this, they're building some strategies to develop some baseline data for some of these metrics. So this, are they going to meet all of these? No, but it is great to have a strategic plan that is rigorous, that is pushing the envelope a bit. And we need to have something. And so I'm like, hey, I agree. It is very ambitious, and I think it will push. Hopefully, it will push people in our districts to move expeditiously to get this baseline data and to get resources out to our schools. Tutoring, yes, high dosage tutoring is an evidence-based practice, as well as high quality instructional support, high quality teaching, and so one of the strategies that I'll talk about, I'll kind of touch on with the work that I do, is we are working in tandem. We are kind of pulling two strings together, where we are hoping to provide high dosage tutoring and continue that support and that funding, because a lot of that funding was lost when we lost our ESSER funds. And so that is still a priority, but when we lost that funding, we also lost the ability to pay teachers and pay, other retired teachers to come out of retirement and come and support and provide that high dosage tutoring. But we're also pairing that with high quality instructional coaching, so that my thought process is, if we pair them both, we have a high quality teaching, then the need for high dosage tutoring may likely go down, because we have very high quality instructional support. So pairing those together will lead to high student outcomes in our district. So that's what we are working on with Guilford County Schools, to offer those support services for teachers and for students. So yes, tutoring is a huge factor. Go ahead.
Hey, Ebony, I have a question for you. It kind of goes back to something that you said, and also something that Felton said regarding, I guess, addressing the issue of young people and literacy and doing well in school, and attaching that at an early stage. And I don't know if this is so much of a question. I mean, I understand North Carolina does some really, really wonderful things well. You quoted some of the stats about, where we rank in terms of board certified teachers and all of those wonderful and great things. But I think I'm probably one of lots of people who understand that if the parent is lacking in some way, and that's not a negative. I'm simply saying you can't teach what you don't know, can't lead where you don't go. Now, if a parent is barely literate, and at that stage they're attempting and desiring to be their child's first teacher, are there efforts and are there programs that would focus and engage parents in such a way that, again, that they, fish for a lifetime and not just for a day, and they're not always just relying upon the school system to help nurture and kind of advocate for their children. Because yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any easier. And I also spent a quotient of time in my life as an instructor or a teacher, and like Felton, sometimes what kids did not know simply shocked me. And it was always just kind of a tap dance, trying to nurture and help and support young people without, making them feel like, they're a failure in some way, that these things or concepts that they could have grasped or should have grasped already. And so that was always a challenge. But I can't help but think that if a parent had the ability to nurture in, early stages, then the child would have had a better opportunity to excel as a student. Because let's just face it, I don't care how many degrees you have, by the time the way society moves and technology and whatnot, by the time my kids were in fifth or sixth grade, I was saying, ask your teacher. It's just that kind of thing. And where they really needed me early on, and thank goodness they had me and my husband. But yeah, the fact that they had what they needed when they were in elementary school and before, meant that they could run on their own by the time they were of a certain age. And so it was kind of like pay now or pay later. And unfortunately for some students, they don't have what they need inside their own homes in order to advance and do well despite these great opportunities with the school systems and the programs and the magnet programs. And just one more quick word about those programs. I am such a fan of those in the sense that they have a place in every educational system. I'm not a parent that would say absolutely not, those are not good choices, because both of my young people went through magnet or charter schools. But I also want to say that filling out an application to get those kids into a magnet or a charter school rivaled my grad school applications. And so for parents who are trying to navigate those things and then reach out to professionals with PhDs to give letters of references, and including the one from your guidance counselor, and then for a child to do an essay, those kinds of things. These are the types of things that young people are being asked to do, not for all, but for some of these charter school programs. And so although unintentionally they become tools sometimes to, I don't want to say that is purposeful, but those tools also serve to do the exact opposite of equity programs where we're trying to make sure that we're bringing all kids along. They serve the same purpose in terms of they are siphoning off sometimes the top 1 or 2% based on the ability of a child to be able to hit certain, marks. In other words, is there somebody in your life that could write, a letter of reference, or, I mean, a lot of young people that I've had the pleasure of knowing were doing all that they could do to show up and to go to school, if they had parents that had challenges or issues of their own. So it's just one of those things. It's like, what do you do and when do you do it that would maximize a child's ability to excel in education?
Yeah, that is a lot to unpack, and you are exactly right. I'm always like, baby, did you take notes? Because I don't know what I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this math, and it takes 2 pages to do this one problem. So I completely understand that a child is not separate from their family. Okay, a child cannot go to the grocery store to make sure that they are fed. They cannot go to the grocery store to make sure, put money on their school lunch accounts, right? So a child is not separate from their family. One of the things that this plan does address, it doesn't address the necessarily the family's need, but it does address family engagement is a pillar of this plan, and making sure that all of the website is language, it has multiple languages, and it's translated, making sure that there are resources within DPI and within districts that will support engagement. So and engagement and inclusion. So not just engagement like, a transactional relationship, but also inclusion in their child's educational journey. And so that is a part of the plan that is recognized both here in Guilford, but as well as within the state, that a child is not separate from their families. And studies show that when a child and when a child, his family is engaged, their academic growth is actually much greater than providing high dosage tutoring, than providing other resources. So if you are able to fully engage a family, then that child's academic progress outperforms any other strategy that can be provided to a child when we engage the family the right way, when we make sure that they are part of the decision-making process. Not saying, hey, can you volunteer for this, this event, but having them be involved in the planning of the event of it in itself, right? So not just, after the plan is done, oh, and now I need your help with this book fair. No, they are part of what books come to the book fair, what dates the book fair comes. They are fully engaged in their child's educational journey. So you were exactly right. But how do you pull those families in who are not necessarily comfortable coming to school? That's my husband. He was not very comfortable coming to school. He failed 2 grades. And so school is I dealt with something yesterday with him. He's like, oh, I can go up to the school to do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can go up to the school and give our baby her medicine. So yes, you can. And so, but it's giving families comfort and knowing that they can go to school, help their child, and make sure, but that's a school's job to make sure that their environments are welcoming, And so that families who may have had a difficult educational experience are comfortable talking to the teacher. That is up to the school to determine and to create for the schools. And that is a part of this plan, but again, it's going to take some time to catch up, right? So will we get that done by 2030? Hopefully some progress was made by 2030. Okay, and I see some stuff in the chat, Fulton, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, and I just wanted to say in support of Vanessa's comment and observations. I know we're winding down, and I want you to land your plane, Ebony. But I just so much of this is an indicator of our society at large, just how much we've devalued the things that we should value to be healthier, both mentally and physically, and in terms of family. So I appreciate the observation as well. I'm going to read a few comments as you get ready. Don did share a link to an article that explains where the money from the lottery goes and how it works. Compliments for Vanessa's comment. Tango says she agrees with Vanessa, and it often takes family support to glean family engagement. So much of this is confidence. Ebony worked down the hall with younger kids. Portia, who a lot of you guys know, and I worked down the other direction with teens. And one of the main components to what we tried to impart with our weekend sessions with the achievers was, being confident and knowing that you belong anywhere that you are. So that has to also be reiterated at home. And there were times we had sessions where parents were just more involved than the students were, and that's something we know can be lacking in certain areas, even as they've grown into adults. There's just not been that confirmation that their existence matters. Jay says, similar to the old poll text, inclusion and exclusion is very intentional, and that ties to family education and wealth status. This also goes to how our schools are funded and based on the tax base in the particular area. Yes, Wake County is very well funded. Yeah, so we are definitely understanding of how economics play a role in who gets to have access to the quality goods and resources that exist. Latasha says, what has been done to address the bias of some teachers and administrators when it comes to certain personalities of students and the students' race? Because tracking has been a tool to segregate students, especially when it has come to intersectionality and introversion and race. Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into that, and I think that complements Vanessa's commentary. This is a societal ill, I believe, and it starts from a place of neglect and a willful disregard for certain peoples. Great comments, guys. Ebony, take us home.
Yeah, so very quick, I'll talk about kind of what we're doing in Guilford and our collective impact work. And this is some work that can be done all over the state as far as collective impact. That's pulling lots of resources and tools together to support children and families. And so our Guilford County Collective Impact Initiative is to accelerate student achievement in reading in 3rd and 8th grade math. And so that's one of the strategies that we're working with our district to do. And that is in the direct alignment with the strategic plan for North Carolina. Our goal is also to reduce absenteeism. So we have a group of people working along with Cone Health and other agencies who are working to reduce chronic absenteeism to ensure students can get to school and that they stay in school. So we can get them to school, but we also want them to stay in school so that they can continue learning. And again, that crosswalks directly with the statewide chronic absenteeism. Equitable pathways to career-aligned credentials. Again, we want to see that both here in Guilford and in the state. And so again, lots of community partners aligning to do this work for students together. And we talked about this, deepen family involvement and leadership and advocacy. We want our families to, number one, advocate for their children at their school and feel comfortable and confident going into their school, but that's also the plan for the state. So those are all things that we are working together to make happen within the state and within Guilford, and can be done all over the state. So what we're hoping is that this type of collaborative and collective impact model becomes a state model that can be done in every community and can bring lots of partners together to align on goals, outcomes for their students and their needs in their community. So if we're able to do this well in small pockets, imagine how well we would be able to do this kind of work within the state. So the state probably can't do all of this. So how can we, as just small communities, support this work? And so this is just my platform, school and community partnerships. I am huge on partnerships. This district can't do it alone. And so it's our job to support and undergird the financial strains that the school may be dealing with. Universal meals, we talked about that. We can't go to school hangry as adults. I'm about to eat my lunch. And so I want to make sure that students are having lunch also at school. Safe and supportive learning environments, ensuring that our schools are safe and supportive. So that's ensuring students, staff are not showing biases, right? So we all have them, but we want to make sure that those biases are not preventing a child from being successful. Increase teacher supplements. We want our teachers to stay at our schools. And we also need our classified staff, our bus drivers, to get our babies to school safely. And we want them to have livable wages. The staff who are feeding our children, to make sure that they are not hangry, right? So we want to have all those resources available to our students. And that's all. I'm not going to go through that because we already talked about those. I'm trying to pull my link up because I may have to just share it to Felton and he share it out because I can't pull it up. But I have a link.
Send me the flyer, Ebony.
Oh, you know what? I can
the
stop
link.
sharing.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah. Send me the flyer and the other information, and I'll double up on the people who couldn't attend because they still may be interested in the conference. I thought it was well done, so I know you have something coming up, but you can talk about it.
Okay. All right. So that is what, oh, here it is. Okay, I have it, y'all. Hold on. Let me share this. And I'll put it in the chat because I stopped sharing my screen. So I'll put this this tool in the chat. It's just a list of resources, a Google Doc, honestly. And it's a list of resources where I have got some of the data from today, but also resources that you can look into as you're advocating for children and families in your area and throughout the state.
I appreciate you, Ebony. This has been wonderful for me. It's good to always share some time with you, even though you tried to bite my style today. Unfortunately, we will not have time for you to tell your terrible story about the attempted prank. So sorry. But I want to thank you, and I want you to make sure you share with me the flyer and the information for your upcoming event, so we can get some more attendees. I will send that out. And I'm just always grateful to share time with everyone that comes to these lunchtime chats. And today was a special one. It was good to spend time with my dear friend Ebony. Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing some good knowledge. No, I don't know if you need to say anything else.
The link to register for the convening is on the link that I just sent. So
it's on the page that you sent. Okay.
It'll show convening. Yep. So you can register there too.
I know it's killing you. You can't have your moment, but it's gonna be
okay. I'm not gonna say anything. I'll send it as an email to everybody. All right.
I appreciate it. Yes, and give me the one with the flyer with the imagery.
I can do that. I'll do it.
Send that one, and I'll send everything out later. Thank you so much again. Thank you all for coming and showing out for another RELC chat. You got a lot of thanks in the chat and a lot of appreciation, and thank you. Y'all be well. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy the rest of today. Take good care. See you next month. Bye-bye.